Okay, it seems like this angle will do. I think I gotta adjust this a bit. So I'm using a friend's phone because my Osmo is shot. Got a little wet. Okay, so let's start off with Jesus spoke in parables. Why he did not speak in the common tongue? Why did he have to speak? Why did he have to say something but not by not saying it? Or by not saying things, he said it. Why? Because most people cannot understand something when you say it to their face. So you have to act it out for them to feel it in their heart, if you will. Or the opposite way, right? If you feel it in your heart, perhaps other people or you will act it out. So this is the irony of all things, right? Is lies. Do lies even exist? No, they do not. Because if you think about it, if you tell a lie, yes, other people may believe you, but the truth is still the truth. The lie does not change the truth. So here's a parable for you, right? Two people said something. One person said one thing and the other person said the opposite. But it doesn't really matter if you lie, if that makes any sense, because you can lie to the other person, you can lie to the people around you, you can lie to the world, but you cannot lie to yourself. That's the inescapable truth, is that you can lie so that the whole world believes you and likes you, but that doesn't change the fact. So even if the whole world believes in the lie, even if the whole world believes that Eden is fake and we cannot reach Eden, that Eden is false, that isn't true, because Eden is the only way, it is the only truth that's worth living for, which must be said. So truth must always be said, because we live in a world where truth is a whisper, it's rarely said. So that's a great parable for you, is that truth must be uttered. It is the utter truth. The fact that it can be uttered is why we can love, why we can exist, is because we can share in the truth. But we cannot share in lies. There's so many different lies. There's so many different directions. It cannot be shared. But the truth, my friends, that must be shared, because it is love itself. So it doesn't matter if you lie, really. It doesn't matter if you don't tell the truth, because we who speak the truth, who live the truth, will continue to create the truth, which is Eden. We will continue to plant the truth, which is a tree. Tree and truth are very similar if you go into it. It reveals the truth because if you think about it, like a tree, the Trinity, the leaves, the stem, the root, delivers the fruit. So the truth of the tree is that a good tree, or the good soil, will deliver a good fruit. So that's another parable, right? As Jesus says, or this figure that we read in text says, is that you will know the fruit by the tree, or the tree by the fruit, vice versa. So that's a very interesting one. The other thing I want to hit hard with is this Gaza thing. Because you see all these people starving in Gaza. I mean, it may all be false. You don't even know. It could all just be propaganda. Maybe Gaza doesn't even exist. That's a possibility. But if it does exist, people I see on comments with all this Gaza stuff says like, oh, God bless them. Or I hope God is with them, like Jesus is with you. You see how religion has been reduced down to a superficial comment? It's almost like watching the corruption happen. Like, let's say something happened to your immediate family. Like there was like let's say a police officer came in and murdered one of your family members, right? Then it's like you just stand by on the side and say, oh, God bless them. God bless the one who was murdered, and God bless the one who murdered. No, the whole freaking family needs to jump in and stop this murder or this corruption to be happening. You see? Because these comments about Gaza, talking about how, like, you know, oh, God bless them, save their souls. Who's gonna save them? You are, I am, they are, we are, right? We have to act now. We have to take action. You know, we can't just utter these words like, oh, Jesus Christ, oh, God bless you, you know? Those words are empty. You're spitting on Jesus's feet or face or whatever you want to think about it when you use his name and you don't do anything. So let me ask you, wouldn't you think we would fight a lot less if we were in our natural capacity and we had many fruits to share amongst each other, and we weren't toiling away every day to work some kind of a job that shouldn't necessarily be worked? I mean, I will admit, in today's society, that's why I ask for donations. Money goes a long way. But in a real society where money isn't the only important thing, a person's heart will go much further than any piece of fake debt money, a promissory note. Because my promise is only as good as my actions. That's what people don't understand. So today, people have a lot of money, but they don't have any actions. So what are you doing is the most important thing for Gaza. What is it that you do? That should be the question you ask yourself. And when you ask yourself that question, yeah, only you can really peer into it, right? What is it that you do? Do you just pray for Gaza and pray for Ukraine and not know any of the background behind it and just judge? You're either Team Trump or Team Hate Trump, but you don't know the deeper implications of it all? It's a consideration. Anyway, I had a few more little tangents, a little more parables I wanted to go into that may be somewhat unrelated, but I want to include it in this video because, again, filming has been a little retarded recently. Maturity. So maturity is not an age thing. You see many children oftentimes, I mean, they're told by their peers and their surroundings and their school that they are immature. But some children are much more mature and much more keen than the adults. They see more because the adults, they think that because they're a child, they won't be able to see as much. But a lot of children see way more than adults do. So this idea we have of maturity is not necessarily don't be childlike, right? I guess it's don't be childish. So don't think that you are the only important thing in the world because the thing that's outside of you is as important as you. The world is as important as you. There's no you more important than the world. It's a together kind of a thing. So this idea of maturity really is not defined by age. It's the same thing with enlightenment. I mean, I'm not going to claim that I'm enlightened here, but I'm not going to make conclusions that I am not. That's the key. So maturity and enlightenment, or to be able to see and observe everything for as it is right now, accurately, without any bias, right, is not a matter of age, not a matter of physical maturation. It's a matter of being able to observe the fact as it is right now and to be able to be clear. That's the most mature person, is the one who doesn't need to be unclear. So many adults today are unclear in what they seek and what they do, and I think evil, or that which is unclear, or that which is a waste of time, comes hand in hand with maturity. Because I was having a discussion with Logan that, you know, Logan, I'm glad, like I said when I was cutting trees once, I'm glad that I get to cut these trees because I have work left to do. I can demonstrate myself. I can show other people and myself that I am at this level of where I can begin to bring forth, little as it is and as small as it is, I can be the first domino or the first spark of an awakening of Eden, right? Of people clearing the jungle to bring forth the fruits, the abundance, however the form of that may be. So that I was actually glad of the fact that evil, or that which was unclear, or that which was not fruitful existed, so that we can bring the abundance of fruit and show the contrast. So that's another thing about maturity, right? And I think that's why, for instance, the samurai with the Bushido weren't afraid of death, actually invited death, and saw that rather than living in a pathetic fashion, you should live to the fully, where you're dancing with death by living to the fullest every day. So maturity. I think it's to be able to be glad for the difficulties. Very difficult to understand this, right? Because it's like when you work out, you immediately associate difficulty and hardship with that which is not good, right? You see, I don't know if you guys can see this, but if you can figure out the fact that certain difficulties able to be overcome is actually an opportunity. And so that difficult opportunity gives us a chance to prove ourselves, to show ourselves. Now, we don't want to be tested all the time, obviously. We don't want to have to prove ourselves all the time. And it'd be nice to live in an Edenology world where no one would really have to prove themselves, because it would always be in perfection all the time. In this time of imperfection, now we can prove ourselves that we are worthy. That is the key. So why see it as difficulty at all? One may ask the question. So that's another thing that was on my mind. What else? I think it's together with this idea, but I was up on the coconuts and I saw that these mature coconuts, right? And I saw that these elders were providing life. The coconuts not only drop and keep mulching and cover the soil and keep the soil nice and moist and cool and dark, but they have dry spaces on top of the tree where it encourages this movement of information, whether that be nutrients, poop, or food, or whatever it is, larvae or fungi, up and down the tree by ants. So by giving an ecological, life-sustaining opportunity, the coconuts provide a chance for life to come and thrive, you see? And so, yeah, we have to be like the coconut tree, because we're on another dimension. We can plant many of these coconut trees that give life on so many different levels, and all we're really doing is we're not even giving life to the ant or the different kinds of organisms that the coconut causes to revolve around it. We just need to plant the coconut. That's it. We don't have to do all the nasty processes of ants. I mean, because when I climb up and harvest the coconuts, having those ants there suck. But even though it sucks, for the coconut it must be great, because again, the ants coming up and down, and the rats are coming in and out, and the birds are flying in, and the bats are coming, possibly, whatever it is, other flying insects, they want to, the gecko or the lizards and stuff, they want to be there because there's life there, because it can support life. And that's the key, I think, here, is increasing ecological activity or life. It should be our goal. And fruits, I think, is a cornerstone for that, because then more human life can be supported in a healthy fashion. And so here we come to the conclusion, folks, which is the cell. By eating wrong, and I sometimes still eat wrong, so I'm not off the cuff here, but eating wrong is disobeying an obligation to the cell. So you have a cellular obligation to be eating raw. You have a cellular obligation to eat hygienic, because even if you're eating raw, sometimes that's not hygienic. So you have a cellular obligation not only to yourself and your cells and the self, but you have a larger self at large, which is the world, which is the human being. So you have that self that's on that level, which is the being itself, the human mankind. And then you have something more encompassing than that, which is the entire thing, which is the entire experience, which is the entire life itself, the world that contains this life, this bubble, if you will. You have an obligation to that larger cell, because just like we are a cell walking through a big organism, which is the world, we have little organisms, we have little worlds in ourselves, in our cells that, you know, walk around and carry out certain tasks inside of our bodies, inside of our organisms. So we are small nations on nations, on built on nations, and then the stars. So the most tiny atom, or you could go to this conglomerate of molecules, can be looked at as the movement of the stars, if you will. It's all a matter of cellular activity. So you could call it a jail cell, you could call it otherwise, you could mature up a little bit and realize that we have an obligation, and this is where the no choice comes in, because there are certain rules you can bend and certain rules that aren't as important as others, and you know, there's some leeway, but there are other rules that you cannot. You know, other rules like, for instance, you know, truth or loyalty or forgiveness or any of these things. There are certain truths that cannot be bent. Trust. So that's that. And so think about it very deeply, right? That deep inside of you, this cell should be functioning coherently. So you should carry yourself such that you function in such a way where it doesn't harm those around you. That's a very important thing. And the only way we can go at that is to admit where we are. You know, admit the conflict that's in this world. Admit the problem with myself. You know, admit that I am on this particular step on this coconut tree and I have to make the next step. And I don't have to focus on the ones below. I don't have to focus on the ones I will have to make above. Just the one I'm making right now, and just the one I'm standing on. And the rest is just a straightforward one step at a time. So if one doesn't even acknowledge where they are at that particular moment, so if one doesn't even see themselves accurately, with clarity, with maturity of who they are and what they are, and what fallacies they have and what mistakes they have, if one cannot analyze their own mistakes of where they are at, how could they move forward accurately? Because every time they move forward, they would be moving forward with a misknowledge, with a predisposition towards falsity or inaccuracy. So it's one thing to not make any mistakes. The other thing is to be able to recognize mistakes. So those two are very important. So we will probably make mistakes to an extent, but the most important thing is to be able to recognize those mistakes. Because if you cannot bring back in those mistakes, you will perish. That's the point of this simulation, of this matrix, of this game, if you will, is it's a game of mistakes and how you deal with them. I mean, you could say that death is the ultimate liberator of mistakes. That's why, again, the Bushido code is, I am not afraid to die. Because if I was afraid to die, I mean, of course everyone is afraid to die, but if I shied away from it all the time, could I ever fix my mistake? At least I could go out without mistake, you know? If after coming in it was all mistakes. That is the question. So I hope this wasn't a mistake, a video that was taken wrong, and I hope you could understand a few of these parables. I'll speak to you next time.